Hello students, I am explaining chapter 2 is matter around a sphere for class 9 science, and in this video we are going to study the next topic, that is what is suspension. So let's start. What is suspension? Suspension, it is a non-homogeneous system, or it is also called as heterogeneous system. Remember, we have two type of mixture. One is homogeneous and one is heterogeneous. Hetero means which is not same, or I can say not equal. It is called as heterogeneous. So remember, here it is written non-homogeneous, nothing but it is equal to heterogeneous. So suspension, it is an example of heterogeneous liquid. So this suspension means what we are going to study here, and this we have to study with the help of activity 2.2. So you maybe have seen in activity 2.2, the whole class we have divided into four groups, that is A, B, C and D. A and B group has used copper sulfate crystal in water, and C group has used chalk powder or flour in water. So remember, C group has prepared a solution of chalk powder or flour in water. So this mixture is called as suspension. So with the help of this, we will study this today's topic. So in activity 2.2, group C observed a mixture where solid did not dissolve in liquid. So as we all know, chalk powder when we put in water, or flour, rice flour or wheat flour, when we put in water, it will not get completely mixed. There will be some solid particles into the solution, which will remain, some of will remain suspended, some will get settled if you keep that solution without disturbing. So such mixtures are called as suspension. Now, what is the exact definition of suspension? The definition is, a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which solute particles do not dissolve in the solvent. So what is solute particle here in this example or in this activity? This rice flour or wheat flour or chalk powder. These are called as solute, and these two we have to add into the water, no? So water we are going to call it as solvent. So remember, suspension, it is a heterogeneous mixture in which solute particles do not dissolve in solvent. The particles remain spread or suspended throughout the liquid for some time. So whatever this solute you are adding, chalk powder or flour, it remains suspended into the liquid. Whenever you mix these two, imagine if this is a beaker, and in this beaker we have taken this solvent, say water, and in this when we add rice flour or chalk powder, the smaller particle will remain suspended into the liquid and the bigger particle will get settled if you keep it without disturbing for some time. So I hope you understood what is suspension. Now we will see the properties of suspension. So now we'll see properties of suspension. First property, as I told, it is a heterogeneous mixture. So what is heterogeneous? We'll explain a little bit. A suspension is not uniform throughout. Uniform throughout means the composition of these such type of solution is not uniform, like salt and water, sugar and water. If you take salt in a water, or if you put sugar in a water, that sugar and salt will get completely mixed in this liquid or in this solvent. So you take water from any corner of this beaker, it will taste same. If you are using salt and water, it will be same salty when you take water from any corner of this beaker. Means it is called as mixed uniformly. But suspension is heterogeneous, so it will not show any uniform composition. You can easily see that solids and liquids parts are separated. So I told the example of chalk powder. When you put chalk powder or flour, some of the chalk powder will remain settled down at the bottom and some will remain suspended in between the liquid. So easily you can separate solid and liquid. That is called as heterogeneous. The second property is visible particles. Visible means what? We can see the particle. That is called as visible. The solid particles in a suspension are large enough to be seen with the naked eyes. So by naked eyes only, without using any instrument, you can easily see the solid particles in the suspension. Third one is scattering of light. The phenomenon is called as what? Tyndall effect. So when we use torch, imagine if this is the torch here, and if you on the torch, light will pass from this suspension. It crosses this beaker, and also you can observe the light inside the beaker also. So the path of the light inside the suspension also visible. And what is the reason for this? The reason is the particle size in the suspension is enough to scatter the light. Means the torch light is absorbed by this particle and this particle will scatter. Then the next particle, again it will scatter, and like this the process will repeat with all the particles which are present into the suspension, and that's why we can observe the path of light in this beaker. Then the next property is, or let me explain what is Tyndall effect. So when a beam of light passes through a suspension, the particles scatter the light, making the path of light visible. This is called Tyndall effect. Sometimes one mark question can come. That is, what is Tyndall effect? So Tyndall effect is nothing but what? When a beam of light is passes through a suspension, or you can say a solution. Whenever you want to write what is the definition for Tyndall effect, then no need to use specify the word suspension. You can use just the word solution. So when a beam of light passes through a solution, the particles scatter the light, making the path of light visible, and this is called as Tyndall effect. So remember, 1 mark important question. Next property is unstable mixture. What is unstable? So see here, if left undisturbed, the solid particles settle down. So if you take this chalk powder and water mixture, or I can say flour, rice flour, wheat flour, or water mixture, you may see a white color solution because many of the particles will remain suspended into the solution. If you keep that beaker without disturbing, then the larger particle of this chalk powder or rice flour gets settled, and the smaller particle will remain suspended. So when they are getting settled at the bottom, that process is called as unstable mixture, or such type of mixture is called as unstable mixture. So because of this, suspension is unstable. And the fifth property, separation by filtration. So you know filtration means what? In filtration, what we are going to do? We are going to take a funnel, and this funnel we are going to keep it on a beaker. Inside the funnel we are going to keep a filter paper. And when you do this filtration method, when you use this filtration method for this suspensions, what you're going to do? Take the suspension, say powder, chalk powder and water, and pour the solution through this filter paper. The filtrate will come down into the beaker, and the bigger particles of chalk powder or the rice flour will remain on the filter paper. So the meaning is we can easily separate some of the chalk powder or the rice flour from this suspension. And this is called as, we can separate the suspension by using filtration method. So the solid particles in the suspension can be separated from liquid by filtration. Once the particles settle, the suspension breaks and it no longer scatters the light. So sometimes when you keep the suspension without disturbing, undisturbed, all the particles will settle at the bottom. All the particles will settle at the bottom, and the above all solution becomes clear. It will become highly clear. And in this situation, when you pass the torch light, this light, when it's passing from the beaker, these particles of suspension are so small, they will not scatter the light. So sometimes whenever the particles all will get settled, if you keep the solution undisturbed for more time, then sometimes there will be no scattering of light even in suspension. So remember this. So these are some of the properties of suspension. So I hope you will understand each and every point of this topic, and it will help you to prepare for your exams. If any question asked from this topic, you will be able to solve those all the questions of this topic. So if you like my video, share my videos with your friends, and if you're not yet subscribed, subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.